Welcome to A Kind Life. Today I'm very grateful to have Mo here with me. How are you going, Mo?
I'm good, thank you, Alicia. How are you?
Yeah, so good. Thank you for saying yes. Now, I do like to mention you were actually highly recommended from a previous podcast and very good friend, Angela Banovic. She's said to me twice I should have you on. So I'm very sure that this is going to be fantastic because she's a very incredible person and activist herself. So I'm sure
She
she keeps
is.
herself in good company.
She's an absolute sweetheart. We've done a few things together.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear about it. So, I guess like if someone asked you a little bit about yourself to describe yourself, what would you say?
I'm an activist. I'm driven. I began advocating for animals soon after becoming vegan. That was 12 years ago. When I first went vegan, I thought it was the end. I'd reached where I needed to be. And I very quickly realized that it was just the beginning. And I became an activist. It began, and that was it.
Yeah, wow. So let's start then. 12 years ago, how did you go vegan?
I'd been vegetarian for a while. I'd always lived in a big city, and the only animals I ever even thought of were pets. Then George and I had a 3-day trip across the country. We changed states and went to live regional. And we drove past my first ever cattle truck. It was parked at the side of the road, 40-degree heat, and a cow had her head out of the truck. And our eyes met, and I didn't even consciously think of anything. That night, I just said to George, oh, I can't eat meat. Became vegetarian. And no one ever said to me, it's not enough. And then, I don't know, I saw a one-liner post on Facebook that said, what are you guys having for Thanksgiving? And I realized then that this is what I had to do. And George picked me up from work, and I got in the car and I said to him, I have to go vegan, and it has to start now. And his words were, what can I do to help? I've never forgotten that moment.
That's incredible. And I'm guessing at that stage, you probably wouldn't have known many other vegans or been exposed to anyone that was vegan at the time.
I didn't know any vegans. The first real life vegan I met, I'd been vegan for a year, and I met her in Thailand. And it was actually Dr. Ash.
Mm.
Isn't that just the weirdest coincidence?
That's crazy. And so how did you even, I guess, like, because 12 years ago is quite a while ago, was veganism something that was even on your radar, or how did you,
No,
I guess, make that connection?
I I don't know. It must have been a little thing inside me, and then I knew I had to do it. I had no idea about nutrition. I'd never even heard of B12. I thought I would never eat chocolate again. I didn't know these things, and yeah. And look how easy it is now.
Would you say you were always like an animal lover? Like growing up, did you have, companion animals? Were you interested?
Companion animals, and that was it. Never, ever thought about the animals used for food or clothing or any of it.
Mm. And then what pushed you from going vegan to thinking you need to do more and become an activist?
I don't know, desperation, the knowledge that change doesn't just happen, it's driven. And I had to do, how else can I give it everything I've got?
Yeah.
My activism started with me holding a sign nervously at the side of the road during a Bridge to Brisbane run. That was how I started. I was really nervous too. Isn't it crazy?
Mm.
And it grew from there. Now I never thought I'd see myself locking on in slaughterhouses and, all that drama. And yeah, it is what it is.
And how did that sort of escalate for you in terms of, holding a sign from holding a sign to actually locking on is quite a different, a big a big jump, I suppose you could say, and not a lot of people would actually sort of make that connection and take the leap. So how did that happen for you?
I'm you're asking some great questions. You're really making me think. I had gone to Melbourne to do the memorial with Animal Live Vic, where 200 of us held a dead animal. You know the ones. And I met a few really good friends in Melbourne, and one of them messaged me in 2016 and said, "We're doing an event. It's quite possible we're going to be arrested. Are you keen?" And I'm like, "Yes." And that was 6 years ago. It's exposed. That was my first lock on.
So tell us about that, because I've only seen people in t-shirts. I actually don't know about it. So tell us, what was involved.
We were at the SBA hatchery in, I think it was Bendigo. It was somewhere a little bit out of Melbourne. SBA is a hatchery for chicks, and footage had been released on the maceration of the male chicks. And 3 days later, we went and we locked on. And it was with Chris Delforce and a whole lot of people who I got to know. It was so well organized. It was really traumatic for me. It was the first time in a slaughterhouse, because a hatchery is a slaughterhouse for day-old male chicks. And what hit me hardest was the noise. Thousands upon thousands of little chirps, and it was so loud. And you could smell the blood, and there were the crushed little mangled bodies and the broken shells on the ground. It was really hard. And I shut down inside so that I could do what I needed to do and we chained onto the conveyor belt. And I thought, well, I'll process when I get home. But I kind of never did. It just grew from there. But we got really good media coverage. People learned about the maceration of the chicks. It wasn't that well known. And we rescued 150 chicks.
Wow.
I know. So it was really good.
And was that sort of part of a negotiation, or how did you manage to rescue?
Oh, no, we just took them.
Mm-hmm.
We liberated them while we were chained on. Some of us were chained on, and there was a team who were just rescuing from the trays and taking the male chicks. And and all homes had been prepared in advance, because you can't just, these chicks are going to grow into roosters. So it was well thought through. It was organized. It was really good. It was so powerful.
How many people were there with you roughly? Like, was it a sort of smaller group or larger group?
I think 20 or so went in, and 5 of us chained on. Chris was taken away by some of the workers there and interrogated, or whatever you want to call it. And there were others filming, and then, of course, the rescuers.
Yeah. And was there many altercations? Like, were police involved?
Oh, always. But strangely enough, they didn't come in.
Okay.
They just closed the door. We were inside, they were outside, and Chris negotiated that we would leave peacefully, which we did.
Mm-hmm. And so I suppose for people to understand who haven't been involved in lock-ons, like, was the purpose of it to be able to gain that footage, to get media involved, to expose what was going on, what goes on in the industry?
The footage had already been released. This was to make sure that people, if you get the media and you make it a strong message and a strong lock-on, you will get people watching the video. Mm-hmm. It's such a powerful thing to have a lock-on when there's footage and you can say, this is why we were there.
Yeah. And was that footage, was that from the same facility or from another one that had come out?
That facility.
Yeah.
It was from SBA. I can never remember what it's called. Would you believe it? SBA.
Yeah, okay. And so that was your first lock on, and then you've obviously gone on to doing others. Would you say, do you have an estimate of how many, Mo? That's what we need to understand.
Oh, not that well, I don't know. The next big one we did in 2017, and it was the first lock on in Queensland since Paddy Mark did one in 2009. So Queensland was very unprepared for this. Again, footage had been released of calves and their mothers. Oh, the footage was from the dairy to the sale yard to the slaughterhouse. So it was well-rounded. And once we saw the footage, we knew we had to keep their stories alive. So we locked on at Highchester Abattoir, where the slaughterhouse footage had come from. Oh, you know, we chained in pairs. It's always good to chain in pairs. Nobody's ever separated. So there's always a buddy system. But it's, you know, you hear the calves crying and oh, it's awful. There were calves, there were pigs, sheep, and slaughterhouses are terrible places. You can feel the fear. It's so thick you can touch it. And oh, and the cries, and it was pretty sad, but we got really good media coverage. We had the TV, you know, and a whole heap of things. And there we were in our Ditch Dairy shirts in Queensland, and me at the time working in an ice cream factory. That didn't go down too well. However, for some odd reason, I wasn't fired, but whatever.
And so how long did you stay in that facility for?
That one, oh God, that was so long ago. Maybe half an hour. They made us leave through the back entrance. They said, you leave where you came in. We'd actually walked in the front gates. Everyone was asleep at the time. But anyway, we left at the back entrance, but we had to walk really slowly because the TV cameras and the media were at the front. So we had to really drag our feet. And by the time we got to the gate, the media was there. And it's really good because we got really good coverage. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, yeah. And so, and then have you done more since then, since 2017?
There was Luvaduck. There was, what else was there? There was Luvaduck. There was a piggery. There was a chicken slaughterhouse. I think that was all. You know, at Luvaduck, we rescued 19 ducks.
Yeah, tell us about this one. I've sort of heard parts of this story before. Some people that might listen to this, you know, I previously hadn't really thought about ducks and the conditions they're kept in. So yeah, tell us about that.
Oh, it was, yeah. Ducks need water. They need surface water for their legs. Their bodies are heavy. So we went in with 4 little pool shells, filled them with water. The slaughterhouse kept operating. And we picked up some ducks and we put them in the pools, and they just, like a duck to water. It was beautiful to see. They turned the sprinklers on us, but what they didn't realize, it just made some really good footage with the mist of the water. Anyway, the police were there. We tried to negotiate for the ducks, and they said, no, we liberated the ducks anyway.
And so I'm assuming they had some homes lined up as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, lined up in the hope that this would happen.
Yeah. And so what sort of is the average lifespan of a duck? Obviously not when they're bred.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm really bad with facts, figures, all those things. For me, it's all wrong. And I do it from an emotional standpoint, probably not the best thing, but my head doesn't hold the facts and figures.
Yeah. What would you say has been like, I mean, it's hard to say the hardest or the worst because they're all horrible, obviously, and very traumatic in different ways. But, like, is there one experience that sticks out more to you that sort of, I suppose, haunts you more than some of the others?
Very much so. There was the Dominion National Day of Action a couple of years back. The event was online, but there was no mention of, locking on or anything. It was a public event, but it was the year after the release of Dominion, and it stirred the police up so much. They were visiting all the activists. I had them at my home a few times. I was doxxed. I got death threats. I was sent animal body parts in the mail. I had men at my gate. I had to call the police. This was before we did anything, so it was really hard. Anyway, 20 of us, I think it was about 20 of us, we walked onto the kill floor at Carey Brothers Slaughterhouse in Yangon, just at Warwick area. We walked onto the kill floor in the dark of night. We chained in pairs. We locked onto the machinery, but we were seated. So we had this non-confrontational, passive thing that we wanted to create. We each held a sign that said, "We are peaceful and non-violent." And we chained on. It was really early in the morning. The workers came in really early. They were a tad surprised to see us. But it really didn't take long for the police to arrive. And it didn't take long for them to bring the bolt cutters. Obviously, all the police in Queensland were on high alert, not knowing where we were. We had 150 people outside. A lot of them didn't even know there was anything going on inside. At one stage, we didn't think the outside team would actually manage to get there because the police were stopping them. They did searches. They checked everyone's driver's licenses. Some people were stopped more than once, but they got through. We had a great support team outside. The police were inside. They had the bolt cutters. An activist held up a tablet showing the footage that had been released on the slaughterhouse. And the mood changed completely. The workers were in there with the police with us, and we watched the workers watching the footage, and they were watching themselves. And it was almost like they weren't aware of their behavior, of how bad it is. And it was that change in mood that opened the way for negotiations. And they surrendered 3 sheep. So we rescued Martin, Malcolm, and Nelson. You can guess where the names come from. And we were just so lucky that Farm Animal Rescue was outside. They had no idea, but we managed to get them to, they were happy to take the sheep, and they now our Dominion sheep. They're just gorgeous.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I can't even imagine. So was that a very quick?
Pretty much so. I think we arrived at around 3:15, 3:20. And I think by 6 o'clock it was all over. But we walked out. It was a long driveway. We walked out into an absolute bank of TV cameras. And the adrenaline's pumping. Oh, it was such a huge day. It was huge.
And have you had people, since that, have you had anyone say to you, that they saw what happened during the Dominion Anniversary action and they went vegan because of that?
Yes. And strangely enough, people who live not too far from the slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of hate mail, obviously, but a lot of people who it was enough to make them go, hey, you know, why were they there? What were they doing? What is Dominion? Dominion got something like, oh, Chris, forgive me if these figures are wrong, but it was something like 360,000 views in the first 48 hours after the actions. And not just ours, this is national. It was huge. Then a week later, the police were at my door and they did the first home search. My home was raided. So that was an experience.
I bet it was. Was that one of a few?
That's one of two. I had a second home search not that long ago.
Okay. And so have you been charged of offences, or have you just been?
I was charged for the piggery, but that wasn't, I didn't think, a big deal. And then we were charged, all of us who went in were charged with the Dominion lock-on at the slaughterhouse here. Yeah. But again, no recorded conviction. Had an absolutely amazing lawyer, vegan, and he was incredibly helpful. He's a really good guy. He's done a lot for me. Yeah,
because a previous podcast guest and now also a friend of mine, Cara, she actually mentioned in her episode how she went vegan after seeing his action on TV because she's from New South Wales. So so she'd actually seen it on TV and thought, what are they doing? Like, why? No, and she was like, I wonder what they're doing and why they're doing this. So then she looked up Dominion and she watched it, and then subsequently, obviously, she went vegan. So yeah, definitely, there's so many people that I know of that's happened. So I think you should be extremely proud of what you're involved in.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm really so happy about that. Yeah. I've got a journo he's not vegan, but very sympathetic. One day he's going to be vegan. I'm working on it. And he did an interview with me, and the first thing he asked was something like, why did you do it? How hard was it to organize, trying to put the organization on me, And I had this few seconds of panic. I'm like, God, what do I say? And then I thought, what would Chris say? Chris would take it back to the animals. So my response was, have you seen the footage? And it was, he's really good, because when he does print stuff, he always puts a little bit of footage up.
Awesome.
Which is fabulous, because you don't want pictures of us. You want to see the animals. You want to see why we were there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I'm guessing what you said before about that, you have been subject to, threats and other things. I'm guessing that there is some fear involved, but it's, nothing compared to what the animals go through, and you continue to push through on doing what you do, regardless of what other people say or do.
Yeah. I mean, I was at a sale yard on Monday, and honestly, we copped the worst abuse we've had for years. Oh, he was, shocking. And it's just like, it is what it is. It doesn't bother me. Sometimes the physical threats do, because I've been assaulted a few times. But yeah, I've kind of got used to it. The home searches are very invasive. And the second one was really unexpected. They got right to my door before I even knew they were there. I was really inappropriately dressed. They wouldn't let me put, more clothes on. And it was really hard, that one. But that stresses me a bit. I freak out when I hear noises at the door, but it is what it is. What are the options? We have to do things differently with the new laws. I don't think lock-ons are now going to have, we had years of lock-ons, and I think now we do things differently.
Yeah. And I know you have to be quite cautious of what you're going to do in the future, so I completely understand that. But it is, like you said, it's an interesting space to see. There's so many creative people, that things that we might not have thought about doing a few years ago that now get people's attention. So I look forward to seeing what's planned for this moving forward.
Yes, there are going to be some exciting things, I hope. You know, there's the I did the what was it called? Vegan Melbourne Day
Yes.
takeover or something recently.
Yes.
I was there. That
Yeah.
was fabulous. That was just a full-on day. For me, those sorts of things are just really easy.
Yeah.
And the sitting at Coles, I was like, I'm really comfortable doing those things. And it was a fabulous day. Now we've got the week coming up in April. Obviously, my flights are booked.
I could only imagine every event that pops up, your name's on there, no doubt.
Oh, I try to be. I try to, yeah, while I can, while I'm, still capable of doing them, I need to do as much as I can.
Yeah. And what would be your advice to like activists in terms of, whether it be people that are new to it or people that might have been in it for a while, but, need some, I suppose, motivation to keep on going?
My advice would, really just change. I said before, change doesn't happen. We have to drive it. Hold a sign, wear a vegan t-shirt. It's not all about lock-ons. It's about doing what you can. And you would be amazed at how comfortable you become. Have one-on-one conversations. Go, and I do a lot of this. Well, they know me where I live now, but in the early days, I would go shopping for beanies and I would talk about wool, the 50 million lambs who die every year in the first 48 hours. I go shopping for belts and I say, have you got any belts that are not made from dead animals, So just have conversations, talk to people. Vegan teas help out at sanctuaries. Sanctuaries play such a big part. They really do. They are such good places.
And that's something you're involved in as well, is that you volunteer, I think, at a sanctuary?
I do. I help with the investigations at Farm Animal Rescue. I almost never get there. I've been there twice in the last month or so, which is really rare for me because I live so far away from the sanctuary. But I help with investigations. I used to do street outreach. I used to bus to Brisbane every fortnight, 5.5 hours travel for 4 hours of street outreach. We used to show pay-per-view where you pay people $2 to watch a 4-minute video. And then you have conversations with them. And it was so powerful. It's in between just holding a TV screen and watching a documentary. It gives them a little bit of footage. Most people don't know what standard industry practice actually looks like. Humane slaughter. They don't know what it looks like. And sometimes we would have the opportunity to say to them, what does it look like from the farm to being bolted? How do they get there? What about, you go through the detail and they you watch their faces. It's so good. And these conversations become comfortable. They really do.
What's the rationale behind paying people to watch the footage?
Just to get them in. Just to get them in. And, sometimes you'll get people who do it only for the $2, which is fine too, because they walk away with 4 minutes of footage in their brain. And it's great with teenagers.
Do you think you're more effective at one form of activism than another? Like, do you sort of lean towards doing, let's say, for example, lock-ons more than other things because that's where you think you're best, serving?
I think experience has taught me how to do street outreach, how to talk to people on the streets. I think we have to speak honestly with integrity, but we also have to be respectful. We have to leave them walking away with what we've said and not angry with us. They can be uncomfortable, yes. So I really think that's probably, I hate to say I'm good at it, but I actually think I am. I can talk to people. But I'm also now at the point where I'm really tired of doing that. And it takes so much energy for me to be patient now.
Mm.
So yeah, give me a good lock on, give me a sit in a supermarket, and yeah, I can have fun with that.
Do you think that's because, like for yourself, you've been in the facilities where you've seen firsthand animal suffering, and so it's very hard for you to talk to educate people that aren't kind of willing to make a change? Like, is it the frustration or?
I think it's actually easier when you've been in there, because you can say, I was there, not I saw it on a video, or a friend of a friend of a friend. You can say, I was there. I speak from experience. I mean, no disrespect to non-vegans, but most of them have the same questions. And, we'd have 60 to 80 people watching the videos. So you have 60 to 80 conversations. Now, all the same questions. And I did it for 4 years, every fortnight.
Mm.
And I really just don't have that patience.
Mm. Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll get back to it. Who knows?
And what do you do, to look after yourself? What you're involved in is quite, is extremely full on. So how do you manage, everything that you see and feel?
Um, I don't know, really. I'm not sure I do. I like watching junk on TV. It's so mindless.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. I just like to keep active. I do a lot of research online. I would love to say self-care and all the things we should do, but yeah, I haven't got there yet.
It's on the to-do list.
Eh?
It's on the to-do list.
Yes, I like that. I'll go with that. I'll definitely go with that. Oh,
It's hard, isn't it?
it is.
Yes.
Self-care is absolutely essential, but I don't really, I haven't got there yet.
Yeah. And I guess, is there anything else that you wanted to mention that we might have missed? I know you've done so many things, and I didn't want to skip over anything that you wanted to mention.
Not really. All I would do is appeal to people to please don't burn out, says she who does no self-care. Don't burn out. If you find vigils too hard to do and they are very traumatic, then do street outreach, hold a sign, have personal one-on-one conversations. Let's just all keep fighting. This is huge. It takes all of us, all different approaches. There are so many. We are all capable of something.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel, it's probably hard to say, but, do you feel positive or enthusiastic about, the way things are going, or do you feel quite defeated? Like, how would you best describe that?
Well, the outside me says I do feel hope, but like deep down inside, I don't know. I think we are such a flawed species. Sorry, I'd love to lie. I just don't feel good lying.
No.
I don't know. I think change will come. There's a lot of change happening already, and the environment is going to drive it. I really think we have to change. And I think we will get there. And a friend of mine gave me so much hope, strangely enough, when he said to me, change is glacial. You won't see it, but it's happening. And I really like to think there is hope. I'm not going to be around to see it, but yeah.
And would you say, is that your favorite quote, or is there a quote that you like to live by?
I always end everything I have this one quote that I love, and it's from Chris Delforce of Farm Transparency, who said, until every last slaughterhouse is shut down, we owe their victims nothing less than everything we have. That's what I try to live by.
Yeah, it's incredible. Mo, I'm so grateful that you have shared your story, and I knew that the moment Ange said that I should get in contact with you, I knew there was a reason why, and now I completely understand. Thank you so much for sharing your story, but also being there because, like you said, for some people, we may not have the strength to be able to be in some of the places that you have been. And so we're very grateful that there are people there doing that, for us who can't face that. So thank you so much. You're extremely brave, and we're very lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you for your kind words. Much appreciated. And thanks for the chance to share the animal story. I really appreciate that.
And I think, if anyone had any questions, like if they were interested in, understanding how they could get involved or any advice you might have, you're happy for them to reach out. I think you've got a Facebook page that I can link on here.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, we'll do. And I look forward to, hopefully we'll be able to catch up in April, and maybe some other people that are listening, they might be going to get involved in the week action for Dominion
Yes.
Farm Transparency. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out and hopefully see
I
you
saw
there.
your name there.
Absolutely.
That'd
Looking
be
forward to it.
fabulous.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Alicia.
Thanks, Mo.
Thank you. Cheers.